Hello, everybody. Good evening. We're just about ready to get started. I realized that apparently some of these cards were shuffled in upside down, unfortunately, so I needed to have to go through it and fix all the cards and then reshuffle the deck a little bit because I don't want it. I want it to be randomized as much as I can be. Um, but I still want to fix the cards so they're facing all the right way. Because it'll cause problems later on if they're facing the wrong way. It'll almost certainly split the sleeves later on, so I want to be sure that they face all the right direction, but there we go. Okay, so if you're just joining, then I am Countertop Commander, and I play Magic about twice a week. I try to play on Sundays, and then I try to play on Wednesday or Thursday. On Sundays, we always do a really, really casual stream. We do kind of a beginner stream where I play exclusively beginner decks, decks that I use for teaching, that I lend out for teaching purposes to teach Commander and teach Magic. And we also do some deck building as well. So I'm trying to intersperse the deck building in a little bit where I can. And then, let's see, on Wednesday and Thursday, I just kind of play whatever I feel like playing at this point, which I'm happy to hear suggestions. But for now, what we're doing is we're doing a Guild Wars. So last week we had Trostani, Rakdos, Azuri Claw Progress, and Lazav, Dimir Mastermind fighting against each other. And this week we're going to have four more guild decks, so two color pair decks, two color pair, that's redundant. Two color decks, four different sets of colors, and then Trostani won last week, and whatever won this week will join Trostani against the final two color pairs, because there's 10 color pairs. So tonight we'll be doing Thromok the Insatiable with Gruul, which is red-green, and then we will also do, I keep spacing his name, Jori En Rune Diver for Izzet. We're doing Noyan Dar for Azorius, and then my kind of personal favorite Boros deck, which is Anax and Cymede. So let me see. I guess we're about ready to get started here. So, what I'm going to this first deck is going to be Thromok the Insatiable. So he's a really cool card. I've had him since he came out in Plains Chase. I think the original Plains Chase actually. So he's a 5-cost legendary Helion, and he has Devour X, where X is the number of creatures you devour. So essentially, he starts out as a 0/0, but then if you devour one creature, so basically he eats he eats creatures as many as you want when he comes into play. If you choose 1, then he just becomes a 1/1. If you choose 2, then he's a 4. And then if you choose 3, he's 9. And then 4, he's 16. So he essentially exponentially increases in power depending upon the number of creatures you devour. So we're going to be trying to play a bunch of small creatures and give them trample and haste, and then bash people's faces in for a lot of damage because 4 creatures really is almost nothing in order to get what you need out of Thromok. So we're starting with a pretty decent hand. It has probably 1 less land than I'd like, but 2 lands is really good, especially because we'll have Rampant Growth to throw in there. We have our source of trample and haste, and we have a little bit more ramp, but then we kind of have this card that's ramp is also token generation. So I think this will turn out pretty good. Thromok is one of those that is always kind of he can be really, really strong, but then it also takes very little to really take him down. So I don't know. You kind of have to take the good in with the bad, basically. And Cultivate here, we just drew our first card, so Cultivate's a really good card. It's another ramp card, which means that we can basically go these 2 lands, ramp, and then like any number of different other cards we might want. So let's go ahead and get started with that. We'll do the Stomping Ground and then pass to our next deck, which is Jori En Rune Diver. And this deck I've affectionately called the Deep Down Dark Deep Down, because Jori En is our merfolk commander who has dove down deep under the seas to find us some nasty, legendary, and otherwise grotesque sea monsters. So this deck is all about sea monsters. We're just going to try to draw a bunch of cards. Jori En himself is going to basically serve as our draw engine to be able to get all of the mana that we need to be able to cast big sea monsters, but also just draw into those sea monsters. So we've got a really good start here with a few we have the land that we want. We have something for ramp, and then we have, counter spells and other ramp spells, and this repeating spell. So this one allows us has a buyback cost that's pretty cheap, that allows us to be able to basically cast 2 spells in a turn real easily. So that's what we're going to aim for. And let's see what our first card is. So our first card is Evolving Wilds. I don't know. I guess maybe it's okay. We already have this Izzet Guildgate, so I'm not sure if we want the Evolving Wilds right now. We might go ahead and just go ahead and play it now and get it out of the way, and we'll get... Well, I guess no, because we don't know how much red... We don't need too much red mana, but we may need a little bit, so I would like to get an island with this Evolving Wilds. It's just... Probably makes a little bit more sense to go with this card, because then that means we can do an island next turn into an Izzet Signet, and then we'll be able to play Jori En and this Curse of Opulence next turn and draw our first card off of Jori En. So I think that's what we'll do and just pass. The next deck is Noyan Dar, which is a very... There's not too many builds for Noyan Dar. He basically just if you cast a bunch of instants and sorceries, he can turn a land that you have into a creature that you can continuously pump if you want to. So, I mean, he's pretty straightforward. We're just going to try to get some land out, protect the land, and make a land or a few lands really big and have them deal damage for us. So we have a decent number of land to get that started, the spell to reduce costs, and then some other stuff like Snap allows us to return a creature and untap 2 lands, so that can be played in a number of different ways. We have Remand as a counterspell, and Aetherflux Reservoir, which from last week, if we remember, was kind of a linchpin in another strategy, so it's almost certainly going to do the same thing here. So let's go ahead and see if that ends up being the deal breaker for us, or the game winner, I guess I should say. So Silent Departure, another kind of low-cost spell to try to slow down an opponent while simultaneously giving us a really good, like another 3+1/+1 encounters on a land. So I'll go and play an island, and then we'll pass the turn. Now, probably the more interesting deck at the table is Anax and Cymede, which is a Boros build, so red and white. And it's enchantment based. So Boros decks are really hard to kind of like make function a lot of the time. And this is the build that has actually always worked for me. It's done a really, really good job in outperforming multiplayer tables. And I'm not necessarily saying that this is like the very best Boros build that's possible. I think that actually has to go to Feather right now. I think, I'm speaking without knowing any of the new cards, basically, but Feather is like an actual legitimate competitive level commander for Boros, just because of what it's really capable of. Anax and Cymede is like a couple of steps down from that, so like 6 or 7 level, basically. But I've had it, I took it to a GP Atlanta a long time ago now, and I went up against a table of 5 other opponents, like not like one versus 5 or something, but we played 6 versus all, and I won that game. So it can do stuff, and I've spent a lot of time like feeding it really good cards. So I'm excited to be able to play it instead of my feather deck, which would almost have certainly won this game. So yeah, we're putting feather aside to try this. So, like I said, it's based all around enchantments, and we're going to use enchantments to bypass the card draw problems that red typically has. And then not only are we going to use it to bypass, but it's also going to allow us to play sort of a weird game of Anax and Cymede being able to be a sort of low to the ground token army type build, and then suddenly flip around and just attack as a single creature to deal massive damage. And that's kind of what we're going to have at the beginning here. So let's see. Crown of Flames. That's really good. Okay. Crown of Flames is an enchantment that it's 1 cost, and it can bounce itself back to your hand for another mana. So that's going to be really, really good for us. So let's go ahead and do this. Temple of Triumph to scry 1, and the top. Yep, we'll want that Rugged Prairie almost certainly. We haven't a few lands in our hand already, so we don't want too many more. But at the same time, having a land that can turn this Plains or this Ghost Quarter into, well, actually, I guess it's just this Plains, right? Rugged Prairie will allow us to turn this Plains into double red, so that's really good. Now back to our first deck, which is Thromok. So Thromok's going to go, and I think we're just staying on the same path. Blighted Woodland, another land. We're just going to go and play this mountain, do Rampant Growth for a forest, and then we'll pass a turn real quick. So forest into play tapped. There we go. Actually, let's see. I think this way was easier. Maybe not. Shuffle real quick. That's another thing about this. So one thing about the Thromok deck that's sort of similar to the Anax and Cymede deck is that you really don't want to commit too much to the board. This is like, as much as sacrificing 12 creatures to Thromok is hilarious, so that you have a creature that's 144 power with 144 toughness, but it's like a 16 power creature, so only sacrificing four creatures for its devour ability. That's enough. That's enough to kill people. Even sacrificing 3 creatures is honestly enough, because 9 damage, I mean, it's still 3 hits, but so like ideally you want to go to 4, but if you can't, like if it doesn't look like it's going to be reasonable, don't overcommit to the board if you don't have to. So let's get finished with that. So that's our turn for Thromok. And then we will move on to the Simic, or not, the Izzet deck, not Simic, the Izzet deck. Okay. Let's see here. And I think our plan was still the same. We're just going to play the island and do our own ramp. And I think that's pretty much what everybody's going to do on their first turn, is ramp a little bit. So we're getting out Izzet Signet and passing over to Noyan Dar, who got Soul Ring. Jesus. Okay. So yeah, we're going to play a Plains, then a Soul Ring, and then we're going to actually, I guess we want to flip it here and do the Plains for the Soul Ring, which will then get us Sapphire Medallion. And what that means is that we have the mana to do Remand if we want to, because now our cost is reduced by 1. I mean, we don't really want to, but it might be useful for us. And that also means that we are now next turn playing a 4-cost card. So we may save the Remand just so that we can be able to do that. But I don't know. We'll see. Okay, untap, draw a card. Rugged Prairie, which we knew was there. Now we will go ahead and play a Plains and probably just pass the turn because we don't really have anything else. We'll play Anax and Cymede next turn, and then that'll be that. Okay, so going over to Thromok. Thromok is going to untap, draw, and Scavenging Ooze. That's a good card. So now the question, of course, is we have a lot of choices here. We could start with a number of different things, I think. I did say we could ramp, so we do have a ramp spell. We actually sort of arguably have another ramp spell, which is just as good and maybe better than that, because we could play it this turn. But we could also arguably start generating tokens with the From Beyond, which will help set us up for Thromok rather shortly. But I don't know. I think it makes sense to go ahead and try to get out Oracle of Moldiah here, which I think also means that I think actually this is something to remand with. So let's go ahead and go shuffle over to the Noyan Dar deck, because the Noyan Dar I think does have a response here. Oracle of Moldiah is a really, really good card, and it makes it hilariously easy to be able to ramp past people. And as Noyan Dar, I'm a little ahead of everybody else, and I don't want anybody to join me. So I want to keep everybody just a step or two behind me. So I am going to remand that. And that means that I draw a card if I do that. So remand just has counterspell. If you do, return that card to its owner's hand. So, and I drew Frantic Search, which is going to be great for me later on. Basically, once I get Noyan Dar out this next turn, it's going to be really, really good. So Thromok doesn't get to have Oracle of Moldiah, unfortunately, as a return to their hand, and they don't have to discard, so that'll just be that for the end of their turn. Now, the sea creatures. So we'll untap, upkeep, draw a card, and Seed of the Synod, which is a pretty good land. And I think we're going to go ahead and play it. I think it kind of makes sense to go ahead and play it. So then we will pay 3, and we'll play Jori En, Rune Diver, and then we will pay 1 mana for Curse of Opulence. And I'm doing this because it gives us the immediate trigger of whenever you cast your second spell, draw a card. So Hedron Matrix, that'll be really good later. Okay, so the only reason that I'm even considering playing Curse of Opulence now, because Curse of Opulence has Enchant Player. Whenever Enchanted Player is attacked, create a colorless artifact token that's called Gold, and it has Sacrifice this artifact to add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. And then each opponent attacking that player does the same. So it's kind of bad to start enemies this early, but Noyan Dar has already kind of made itself an enemy by countering a spell, especially a ramp spell. Not necessarily the best form to do, even if it is necessary. And I think that if we were playing in a real game, what I would do is I'd say, okay, well, I think it still makes sense, but my underlying reasoning for doing this is that I'm a control deck. Jori En is a control deck. Noyan Dar is also a control deck. The other 2 decks are aggro decks, almost certainly. If I saw these 2 across the table, I'd basically assume that they were aggro decks. So what I'm going to do is try to help essentially create chaos to take out one of my primary competitors, because as a control deck, I'm probably pretty solid against the aggro deck once I'm able to stabilize the battlefield. And I'll be able to do that since I'm going to probably be outdrawing their ability to draw. So I'm confident that with the cards that I have in the deck that I have, I should be able to take them out. But another control deck is going to be a problem. So I think that if I try to early on pit the aggro decks or help pit the aggro decks against the other control deck, I may stand a better chance of actually doing something in this game and not getting my stuff interrupted. So we're going to go ahead and enchant the other control deck here early on to hopefully... I mean, it means that we get more mana, but it also means that hopefully those two have more of an incentive to attack the control deck that isn't me. So now that I've played my turn, and I think I did... Yeah, Hedron Matrix was the card that I drew. Okay. So we are going to move on over to the Noyan Dar deck, which is going to use its whole turn essentially to cast Noyan Dar. So now that being said, we do have the capability of casting a spell, especially casting Snap here. So we're going to go ahead and cast Noyan Dar. And then, let's see here. So, I think what we do is we go ahead and say, okay, well, let's pay, because our blue spells cost 1 less. So we'll use Command Tower to cast Snap to return target creature to its owner's hand and then untap 2 land. So, I think that we go ahead and we return Jori En to its owner's hand. But after we cast that spell, we actually cause a land to become a creature. So this one is going to become a creature with 3+1/+1 counters on it. So let me go and get our dice here. I hadn't pulled it out yet. So this island now has 3. And we are going to go ahead and untap that island and untap our command tower. So Jori En over here, this guy, he's in its owner's hand now. And we have a 3/3 island that can attack this turn. That being said, I do think we just want to keep on this and tap these 2 to cast Frantic Search, which again is reduced because of our Sapphire Medallion. And we're going to go ahead and just target this island again and make it a 6/6. So we draw 2 cards, discard 2 cards, and untap 3 land. So let's go and draw our 2 cards. Just two lands, unfortunately. So let's go ahead and discard both of those lands. And then we will untap 3 lands here. So the 3 lands that we actually have. Let's see. I think that's actually all we can do in this turn besides attacking. So we do have a 6/6 that can attack this turn. And I think that sort of in retaliation, probably what I'd immediately do is just attack the player who put the Curse of Opulence on us. So the Jori En deck is going to take 6 damage, and that is First Blood. Nom nom nom. First Blood. Okay, so now that we got that turn resolved, we'll pass over to the Anax and Cymede deck, who is now looking over at the Noyan Dar deck, going, oh, he's kind of nasty over there. Might want to do something about that. Battle Forge, okay. Well, let's go and play the dual land plateau, and then we will cast our commander and actually call it a turn there. Doesn't seem like we should call it a turn, but we are going to. Now, next turn is going to be the interesting turn. We have a lot of choices. So, Anax and Cymede, we're done. We're tapped out. It seems very simple, but this is really going to set us ahead here shortly. I'm thinking that we will basically have the choice of dealing a ton of damage or setting ourselves up to have a ton of mana. So I'm going to have to make a decision about which one I want to do, and it's going to depend kind of on what everybody else does. So untap, draw a card. It's a forest. I think here we just redo the play that we were going to do, and that's Oracle of Moldiah. So we play with our top card revealed. It's not a land, unfortunately, so we'll play the land that's in our hand and then just pass the turn. So that's the way it be. We'll get tokens next turn, or we'll work on getting tokens next turn is what I should say. So it is Jori En's turn. We will untap, draw a card. It is Helm of Awakening. Huh, interesting. That is a card that I have in here because it's a card that I don't typically play just because it gives all spells, like everybody's spells cost 1 less. But at the same time, I typically have really big cards to play, so being able to cast spells for less is normally good for me. So let's go ahead and... So we'll do this. We'll do Jori En this turn. Then we will tap a blue for Ponder. So we'll cast Ponder, which triggers Jori En, which draws us a card. Thrix the Sudden Storm, and then we'll look at the top 3 cards of our library. And... I mean, these are all decent cards. I wonder if I do Molten Psyche just so that I can get a new hand, maybe? Maybe that's what I want to do. I mean, here soon anyway. Thrix is a good card to have. I think this is a good hand, so... Let's go ahead and do it like that. We'll leave it just the same as we drew it, and we'll draw a card from Ponder. And we have 7 cards in hand, so we are done for the turn, and we just say, oh well. So now it is Noyan Dar's turn to go. Let's see here. Untap, draw. It's another land? Jeez, this is not like particularly great here. We will play an island. We will pay 4 to cast the Aetherflux Reservoir to hopefully like get us back on track with some of this. So we'll pay a blue. We will cast Silent Departure to return a creature to its owner's hand. At this point, so Oracle Moldiah didn't allow any extra lands to come into play. That doesn't mean it won't allow any extra lands ever, but it means that the Thromok player doesn't have a handful of lands to just spam out really quick. So that's probably good news for us. So I'm not really too concerned about the Oracle Moldiah at this point. The Jori En, I've already returned to their hand and slowed them down, and basically all they did is just replay Jori En. So it doesn't feel like they have too much in their hand going on right now. The Anax and Cymede deck, on the other hand, is an aggressive deck, and we're probably going to have some trouble from them, and we don't really know what they're going to do because they haven't really done much of anything. So I think that we go ahead and return the Anax and Cymede card back to its owner's hand. Maybe just to slow it down for 1 turn. And so since we decided targets, now we can put counters on this island. We'll put 9 counters on it. And we also, because we cast a spell, we get 1 life to work with. So we're at 41. Isn't a lot. We really need some more. We need some more cards. So 41. We need to draw more cards specifically. We got like cards to slow people down, but our frantic search didn't take us as far as I was hoping. There is a lot of draw cards in this deck, but we just have to get to them. So I could attack here, and I'm tempted to, but I'm wondering if 1 turn of it's like if they attack, they'll get the Curse of Opulence trigger on me, but they'll almost certainly lose their creature. And like I guess no. That being said, Oracle Moldiah is a 2/2 and Jori En is a 2/3, and my Noyan Dar is a 4/4. So I don't think they would attack anyway. At least those 2. And Anax and Cymede might not be able to field a creature with haste. So let me go ahead and attack. And in this case, I want to divide up the nonsense that I'm doing. So I'm going to go and attack the Thromok deck for 9 damage. And they're going to take it because they don't want to lose their Oracle Moldiah. So they are at 31 life. And we will pass the turn over to the Anax and Cymede deck. So let's see. Anax and Cymede is going to untap, draw a card, and at this point, I think we play Smothering Tithe. So that will get us back into the game almost certainly. Since we lost, we kind of got the decision made for us. It would be nice to be able to play Anax and Cymede again, but honestly, getting the Smothering Tithe out is going to be the better option. So Smothering Tithe is whenever an opponent draws a card, that player may pay 2 colorless, and if they don't, I get a treasure artifact token with sacrifice this treasure. Tap sacrifice to get a mana. So we're in one turn cycle, we're probably almost certainly going to get 3 free mana from that. Okay. Oracle Moldia's turn. And let's see, would they do it? So actually we get to be able to make a choice here. So we'll untap, upkeep, and draw a card. So this puts the Smothering Tithe trigger on the stack for us to decide. But before we have to make a decision on that, we flip over our top card because that's an instantaneous thing. We continuously have the top card of our library revealed. And that's really, I guess that's actually even before the trigger for Smothering Tithe is put on the stack. So it wasn't a land, which is unfortunate. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and pay for that trigger so they don't get the mana. Because what we're going to do for the rest of our mana is we're going to try to shuffle our deck a little bit. So we'll get Cultivate, and we will get an island, not an island. There's too many islands at the table. We're going to get a forest and a mountain to even it up. So the forest is going to come into play, tap the mountain into our hand. We'll shuffle real quick and see if we get a mountain or a forest, or I mean just any land on the top of our library so that we can put it onto the battlefield. Oh, this is supposed to go into here. Sorry. Hang on a second. So I don't normally talk about it, but I do shuffle like legitimately off screen. I try to show it every so often on screen, especially at the beginning of the video. Well, at the beginning of the stream, I should say. I often try to show at least a little bit of shuffle, but I shuffle as much and as thoroughly as I would in a regular game because I don't really want these games to be like feel like they're cheated in some way. I mean, I want them to be exciting, but also it's sort of like if like I make a bad decision on a hand in the deck, mana floods or mana screws, then that's what it is. I don't want to cheat it out and make it, like, unless I'm really trying to test out a deck, I don't want to cheat what happens at the table. So especially, like I do stuff like this to show you that I'm trying to do this proper. Trying to. It doesn't always work, and especially when I'm like hanging. I do it close to my chest. That's the problem. Okay, so let's go and cut one more time. Do that. What's on the top? It is not a creature, or it's not a land, unfortunately. So we are just playing one land this turn, and unfortunately that's all we're doing. If it takes a while to get Thromok out, it takes a while to get Thromok out. That's just how it's going to be. It just means that when it comes out, Thromok is going to be a big boy. Okay, so Jori En's going to go untap, draw a card, and when I draw a card, I need to decide about paying the cost. And do I want to pay 2 mana? I think that I'm not going to pay 2 mana, so we're going to go and put a counter on the Smothering Tithe just to help remind us that it has mana on it. Okay, and we're doing that because I really want to be able to play this Thrix, the Sudden Storm. So let's go and get another island. We don't need too much red mana. This deck mostly goes for blue mana, so we're gonna go and do that. And then I think, well, do we pass the turn? Yeah, I think we passed the turn. I mean, like, it makes... Jeez, I totally missed this card that's sitting over here. Let me make sure that it gets shuffled in. So, let's see. So, holding up mana for a blue deck is basically a well-worn strategy to try to fake that you have something. And I mean, I do have something, but it's probably not what they're thinking. They're thinking it's a counterspell. So, I want people to think that, basically. So, let's see. Do that. And I don't really have a... I mean, I guess I do have a counterspell, so if I really need to, then I can, but that's all I'm going to do. No more. It is the Noyan Dar deck's turn. Untap, upkeep, draw a card. Please a draw card. And it's a land. Okay. Sure. Okay. Well, we're going to play Hollowed Fountain into play tapped. And with the one card that we have, I guess we do have something. Oh, we're supposed to pay or not. Yeah, that was almost certainly a pay for that. Let me think. Yeah, we don't even really want to do the Silent Departure. So I think that's it for the turn. I think we just hold off here because a 9/9 island is a really big deterrent for our opponents to try to have to deal with. So holding off for a turn on damage is okay. So it's Anax and Cymede's turn. Let's see, plains. We probably don't want to draw more land anymore. We'll play that. We will do 5 or 3, I mean, and we will cast Anax and Cymede. We don't have the ability to give it haste this turn. That's the only problem. If we could give it haste, that would be perfect. But we can't, so we are going to just play it out and pass the turn. Because if we don't, we may end up, I mean, we'll almost certainly play more than one spell next turn, but for this turn, we're fine. Okay. Thromok. Untapped. Now, Thromok is actually one of our oldest decks as well. So, it's always fun to have that. Jeez, what is with this? So, we have 7 mana. I was really hoping that we'd be able to do something more, but apparently not. I think what we do is we just do... Well, let's see. 2, 1. Yeah, it's not really enough. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to pay 3 and we're going to try to do Chariot of Victory. And if nobody counters that, we're going to pay 4. Oh, and we didn't pay the cost. Okay, so Smothering Tithe gets a second one. I think we were probably going to do that just because we want to cast more than one spell this turn. So the other one we're going to do is From Beyond so that we can get 1/1 creatures each turn. So is this something that gets countered? That's the question. And somehow I think that Jori En doesn't, because they're going to basically look for they would be looking for a really big spell. They would be looking for something that's like game-winning level of spell. And From Beyond is not a game-winning spell necessarily. Thromok is a game-winning spell. Thromok would be countered. From Beyond may trigger Thromok, but in this case, it makes more sense to just wait for Thromok to come out. So probably not going to attack. Or not going to use our Scattering Shot on this. So instead, at the end of their turn, of Thromok's turn, we are going to pay 5 to cast Thrix. Because it has Flash. And then we will go ahead and take our turn. So let's do this. Untap. Draw a card for the turn. And it is an island. Not too shabby. I mean, still would like to see something a little bit different, but... And sorry, so we need to decide if that was something that we would counter. Not counter, let Smothering Tithe on. And I think that we don't pay because we're going to cast 2 spells this turn. So, Smothering Tithe now, there's 3 treasures over there. We are going to... I think what we want to do is we want to spend our turn. So first we're going to pay 3 here for Mystic Speculation with buyback. So we are going to scry 3 and then return that to our hand. So our scry is this, or all these cards. I think that we want to just find a big sea creature at this point. So all of these are just going to go to the bottom of the library. And I think that also means that just in case next turn we can get a big creature. Let's go ahead and play the Hedron Matrix now while we can. And that's going to draw us a card from Jori En and also trigger the Smothering Tithe, which we can't pay for, so they have 4 counters now. Okay. That is all that we can do this turn. We're just going to pass. Yes, I think. Yes. Okay. We're going to pass. Noyan Dar. Annoying Dar. Freaking land. Holy crap. This is... I was talking about mana flooding earlier. Yep. Mana flooding. Everybody, that's what tonight's going to be all about. It looks like... Well, the Thromok deck hasn't been drawing mana, but feels like everybody else has been drawing mana. Okay, and we just really can't do much. And yes, we could bounce a creature, but I'm just not seeing a creature that I would waste my very effective Silent Departure on. So I'm just gonna go ahead and pass again. I mean, I don't know. I can't wait too long. Oracle Modiah isn't worth it. Anax and Cymede doesn't feel like it's worth it yet because we don't know what they're going to do with Noyan Dar. We do have a really scary Hedron Matrix over there, and if it attaches to Thrix, we're all really boned. A 9/10 flyer. That's nobody has showed any capability of defeating a flying creature. So maybe that's worth it. Maybe we go ahead and do that. Well, we would pay 2 for the Smothering Tithe at the very least. So let's go ahead and do that. We'll pay 4 here to flashback the Silent Departure. We'll return Thrix to their hand, gain us a life off of the Aetherflux Reservoir, and then we will put the 3 counters on the guy that we already have. And then let's go ahead and attack Anax and Cymede. So we've slowed down the Jori En deck, but getting in an attack on the Anax and Cymede deck shows that we're not necessarily hostile to the Jori En deck. We just want to slow it down a little bit. So Anax and Cymede is not going to block, so they'll be down to 28. 1 attack. Nearly half the health. Okay. Anax and Cymede's turn. With a truckload of mana now, all of a sudden. So, untap, draw a card, and it is a freaking Plains. That's okay. That's okay. We'll deal with that. Let's play the Rugged Prairie. Let's do 1/2. We will cast this Madcap skills on Anax and Cymede, which triggers its heroic, so it gets +1/+1 and gains trample until end of turn. And now it also has +3/+0 and can't be blocked except by 2 or more creatures. Then we will we'll do this here. So we will feed the white mana from that Plains into Rugged Prairie to get double red, which we'll use to play Crown of Flames and then return it back to our hand. So we get a heroic trigger when we do that. So Anax and Cymede is getting another +1/+1. So now it is 3 + 3, so 6, and then 2 more is 8. Let's see. So I'm liking this. I So let's look at the battlefield. Thromok isn't really very far ahead. They've been a little slow. Jori En has been doing a lot of card draw and stuff, but they haven't really done anything necessarily. But that freaking 12-12 island is a big troublemaker. I think we go ahead and we teach the Noyan Dar deck a lesson. So we are going to attack. We're going to declare Anax and Cymede as an attacker on. Well, wait a second. Wow. Okay. I guess this is how it goes. So we are going to use 2 of our Smothering Tithe to play and return the Crown of Flames, which gives another +1/+1. Do we do it like that? I guess we don't really need to. So let's do it 3 here. So we'll do Crown of Flames here. So that gives the trigger. So it's +1/+1. Now it's 9 total. So then we will remove 2 counter. No, we don't want to do that. So we're going to declare attackers against Noyan Dar. So right now that's just 9 commander damage, right? So then Noyan Dar, we'll get a treasure from that because we attacked them, and so will the Jori En. We probably need to make an actual card for that. Do I have a treasure? I wonder if I have a treasure. Give me a second. There may be a card here that can make it a little bit easier to tell what's going on over on Jori En's side of things. Okay. That's food. It's not really what I want. Oh, there's a Scion. That could be useful later. And a Spawn. I'll go ahead and keep those out. Let's see. Clues. Spawns. Constructs. Slivers. Emblems. At least I don't see any in here, which may mean that I'd have to dig in the other one. I don't really want to do that right now. So we're going to just go ahead and make a small kind of treasury card thing. Okay, let's see. Let's go ahead and say treasure. And we will make a little coin here. So we will do it like this. And a dollar bill sign, right? There we go. That's a treasure. A very small treasure, but a treasure nonetheless. Okay. So Jori En now has a treasure. Oh, I guess it's a gold, actually. Ugh. Okay. We'll fix that. Okay. So, Anax and Cymede attacked Noyan Dar. Noyan Dar doesn't have anything to block with, because this can only be blocked by 2 or more creatures. So, we are at... So, I said 3, and then 6, and then I cast it 1 time for 7... Let me think. Sorry. 3, 6. We cast this one 7. This gets another one 8. We cast this again at 9. So it is currently 9, but then we'll say 10, 11. Yeah, so we'll do 10 and 11 there. And that's what Crown of Flames does. Sorry, Crown of Flames gives Anax and Cymede fire breathing, so it can give itself +1/+0 at the cost of a single red, and we can do that as many times as we want. So it is 11. Anax and Cymede is 11 power now. We're going to cast Boros Charm and give Anax and Cymede double strike. So now it is a 12 power double strike. Can't be blocked creature, or isn't blocked creature. So that means that Anax and Cymede is out of the game. And that's how Anax and Cymede works. I try not to do stuff like this. This feels too early in the game, but I guess we have been playing for about an hour. So maybe it's fair, but I don't really know how the rest of the game is going to go. So knocking out Noyan Dar right now feels a little kind of crappy, and it's not something that I would do in a normal game, but since it's me against myself 3 different ways, I think I'm okay doing it this game. But that also means that Curse of Opulence does fall off, so now nobody's going to get that. So, yeah, that's a thing. And now Anax and Cymede is just basically set up to bully people to death if it wants to. Oof, oof, oof. We will, when we go back around, we'll clean up Noyan Dar and pull him aside. So Noyan Dar is not going to the finals. Okay. Untap. Upkeep. We get an Eldrazi Scion from Beyond. Draw a card, and on top we do not have a frickin' land. Wow. Okay. What do we do here? Let's see here. So, what we can do is we drew a card. Do we want to pay the cost? I guess yes, do we? I think actually no, because I think what we're going to do is we're going to like play the. Well, let's see. Okay, sorry. So, first strike case trample. Unless you have the City's Blessing, and I will. So if we pay 2 here, we play it. We have to equip 1. We only create 2 tokens. That doesn't seem very good. But if we flip it around and we don't pay the cost, then there's our 2 for playing. There's 1 for equipping. Here's 1 for activation. We get 4 tokens. Is that what we do? I think so. I think we go ahead and not pay. So Anax and Cymede, unfortunately, is going to get another counter. But what we're going to do instead is we're going to pay 2. We will cast Tillanali's Summoner. We will pay 1 to equip it with Chariot of Victory. Then we will, let's see, tapped and attacking. Yeah. So we are going to go ahead and attack with Tillanali's Summoner. And we are going to activate her ability so that, let's just say 3 tokens. So she's going to have 3 token. There's going to be like 3 of these elemental creature tokens tapped and attacking. So let's go ahead and say elementals. And we'll move these lands out of the way so we can actually draw one of these. 1/1 Flame. Flame, and then some more flame, and then a smiley face. There we go. There's our elemental. Okay. Sorry. Our elementals are going to be tapped and attacking Anax and Cymede. So there's 4 of them. Anax and Cymede is almost certainly going to block the Tillanali's Summoner just to kill it. The elementals are going to deal 3 damage, bringing Anax and Cymede down from 28 to 25. And that sets us up for a really big smash with Thromok next turn. So basically, we're probably going to see about essentially sacrificing everything that we have and to devour under Thromok. And I think that let me see how much mana that we have. So we don't have a ton of mana here. We need 5 to be able to cast Thromok. We're not going to draw land next turn. maybe that means that we play the Scavenging Ooze so we can essentially what we'll do is we'll double block Anax and Cymede so that at least we can take some of the commander damage down, because it's going to be ridiculous. So we take some of the commander damage down. We'll have these 3 elementals. From beyond, we'll create another creature. We'll do Scavenging Ooze. We'll cast Thromok. Oh man, but Thromok can't attack unless I have the extra mana. Ooh, that's bad. Maybe we'll only do 4 creatures so that we have 1 left. We'll use the Scion to equip Chariot of Victory, and then we deal 16 commander. Oh, that's not good at all. Okay, well, hopefully the Jori En deck can do something about it, because we don't have anything else that we can do. We just have to suck up. Suck it up and hope that Anax and that Jori En is able to do something about this, because this is ridiculous. So we do have 1 gold, though. We have a single gold mana for this. So let's untap. Keep the draw. It's an island, not really what we wanted to see. So play an island. Oh, and we needed to decide about paying a cost here. Ick. Yeah, I think we have to, because we really can't allow Anax and Cymede to be able to do too much here. So we're going to go and play an island, and then maybe do we just pass the turn? I'm afraid of passing the turn because I don't really know, like I really need to get something out of my deck that can allow us to do something here. So oh man, I guess let's go ahead and just throw caution to the wind. We will pay 1 to cast High Tide, which means all of our islands tap for an additional mana. So we'll tap these 2 for Mystic Saint Speculation with buyback, which means we draw a card. I don't know really what else to do with that. So we draw a card. It is not a creature or something that we can do anything with, essentially. So let's go and scry 3. And Shipbreaker Kraken is really what we need, but at the same time, it's not what we need. I think we need something better than that. Like, we can tap down creatures with it, but it's Shipbreaker Kraken, I think that's what it is like a card that, well, it's not bad. It's not bad at all, and it can be really, really useful. But my problem with it is that we need something that pops Anax and Cymede off of the table completely. So maybe what we do is we do Mystic Speculation again with buyback. We have a floating mana, but like oh well kind of thing. And that's what we need. We need this Cryptic Command. Return target permanent to its owner's hand, counter spell, tap all creatures, or draw a card. So I think let's see. Since a Divining Top is a really good card, let's go and leave that on top as well. We'll put the island on the bottom. And so now we have, well, we're not going to have 2 mana next turn. Crap. I guess we just suffer the consequences. That's it. Oh no, wait, we do have 2 mana. We have the gold. I need to like put this down here and like leave counterspell up just in case Anax and Cymede pulls another card that's like ridiculously good. Yep. Bye bye Noyan Dar. This game is going to go a lot quicker than the last game. It felt like last game went forever, but this game is going real quick, and Anax and Cymede got a good hand, and Noyan Dar didn't draw any of its normal stuff, basically. Counter spells and bounce spells and stuff like that. What was the next card? Knowledge Exploitation, of course. Of course that would be the next card. Now, unfortunately, 2 lands after that, so Oh man, I just must have shuffled pretty bad or something. I don't know. Okay, we'll just set it like that. So, Anax and Cymede's turn to go. Okay. So we did pay for them. We did make sure to resolve Thromok giving us a treasure. So draw a card, command tower, not what we wanted to see. Let's see here. So can we just like pile drive somebody to death? That's the question. So that's 2 red. Because the madcap skills is ridiculously good. Ridiculously good. It's crazy how good that card is. I mean, like in this setting, for an aggro deck, madcap skills goes so far. Okay, so we haven't really attacked anybody. We know that Thromok is going to come out. Can we take down Thromok with first strike? That's a good question. So if we could attack this turn and save up our mana, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8. So 8 plus 6, 14. So that's not quite enough to be able to stop it, but we will get 1, so 15. So it's still not quite enough. It's not quite enough. It's very close though. So do we... I think we attack here and just get in 6 damage. So yeah, let's go ahead and attack with Anax and Cymede. We'll pump a couple. Let's see, so 6, 7 damage. Let's see, so sorry, 6, 7, 8, 9 damage. Do we do two more? Let's do 1 more for sure. Let's do 1 more. So that's 10 damage. And why I'm saying that is because it means that they're 1 attack away from dying. So we're going to attack for 10 damage. The Thromok deck, seeing as we're not going to die this turn, but we almost certainly would die next turn, even if we attacked with Thromok and got in a bunch of damage. Do we block it all? We would take on... I guess we take on 3 damage this turn. I think that's what I decided, because we're going to play a creature. We're going to get Scion. We'll be a 16/16 with Trample and Haste. Oh, and we'll have First Strike as well because of Chariot of Victory. Oh, we can't be killed. Okay. So yeah, we're going to block 3 of the damage, which means that we're going to... this goes as well to block. So now instead of 10 damage, we will be taking... 7 damage. Does Anax and Cymede want to do anything about that? And I think maybe we do. We just go ahead and pump 3 more into Anax and Cymede. So they still take 10 damage, and they'll still be within danger range of commander damage. Okay. That is what Anax and Cymede does. So now we're going to go over to Thromok, untap, upkeep. We get Scion again. We draw a card. We do exactly what we said we were going to do. We're going to do Scavenging Ooze. We're not going to pay the Smothering Tithe. Then we pay 5 mana here to play Thromok from our command zone. And we sacrifice the Elementals and Scavenging Ooze. And then we so that now it's a 16 power creature. Let's go ahead and get that out there. A scary 16/16, which is probably some of the biggest power you'll generally see in a game. I mean, without like a crazy combo type thing. Like, Thromok is like the weird creature that is a non-combo card generally, and gets to the sort of silly, ridiculous levels of combo decks when it comes to power and toughness. So we'll sacrifice the Scion to equip the Chariot of Victory, because that's what Scions do. And we will swing for 16 damage at Anax and Cymede, which we're going to deal that damage. So that's 1, 6, and Anax and Cymede is down to 9 life. Wow. Big creatures this game. This is all about big creatures. Last game was not so much about big creatures. It was just about attrition. Attritioning your opponents to death. And this one is like quick draw McGraw. Who can the quick and the dead. That's what this game is, the quick and the dead. Untap, upkeep, draw a card, cryptic command. So now we are in a really, really good position, actually. We are going to go ahead and pay for the cost and for Smothering Tithe. And now we are at a point where we have cryptic command to stop Anax and Cymede whenever we want. We have Thrix that we can cast at instant speed. We'll play our Haunting Fingraph for our land for the turn. And now we just sit on our hands and watch other people hurt themselves to death. Because I think this means that Anax and Cymede is going to take out Thromok. And then we will play Thrix at instant speed. Actually, let me go. What I'm going to do is I'll take this deck off. So I think that how this is going to resolve is it's going to mean between these two decks. So let's go ahead and get them closer while we still can. So because we're kind of already, we're cleaned up enough to be able to do this pretty easily. So here and here. Okay. Anax and Cymede's turn. We can also counterspell, so we can play our Thrix and we can counterspell in the same hand. So that's really good. Okay, untap, upkeep, draw a card. Finally, Orym's Thunder, an actual card to do something with. We'll play Battlefield Forge. We will. Let's see. So Anax and Cymede needs 3 mana pumped into it to be able to kill somebody. So that's what we're going to do. We're just going to pump 3 and attack. No, wait, we need 11. So we do need to do a couple more here. So let's go and do that. Anax and Cymede attacks into Thromok, killing them. And then during our second main, we have enough to do Orym's Thunder. So let's go ahead and do Orym's Thunder and hopefully take out the Jori En. So we'll cast Orym's Thunder with Kicker. So we'll destroy the Hedron Matrix and we'll deal its damage and convert a mana cost to target creature, which will be Jori En. Jori En, on the other hand, so Thromok is the Dunzo, unfortunately. So we're going to move his stuff a little bit away and take it off the table here. Okay. So Orym's Thunder, though, is going to get counterspelled. So they played this. They're going to pay 2 here and cast Counterspell to counter the Orym's Thunder, and then once they try to go to end their turn, once Anax and Cymede wants to end their turn, we're going to pay 5 and flash in Thrix to draw ourselves a card, which we're not going to pay for, so they're going to get a Smothering Tithe counter, which is fine because I think this actually means we win. So let's untap, upkeep, draw a card. We are going to go ahead and pay for that. We're going to pay 2. Here we go. Let's just do it that way. So the reason that we're going to win here is because it doesn't really matter what we have in our hand, because we're just going to pay 4 to equip Thrix the Sudden Storm with Hedron Matrix. So now Thrix is a 9/10 creature, and Anax and Cymede only has 9 life, which means that we win after we attack. We're just going to attack with Thrix and get it done. Wow. Anax and Cymede got taken down by the deep sea creatures. And that means that Jori En is going to move on to round 2 with Trostani. And so, okay, so here's how it's going to look. So the two color pairs that we haven't played is Golgari, which is green-black, and Orzhov, which is black-white. So we're going to have Viral's the Scar Striped as our Golgari deck, which is, again, sort of a much older build that I've had for quite some time. And I've done different things to it over the years, kind of given it different cards to try to balance it, like make it a little bit weaker and then make it a little bit stronger and stuff like that, because Viral's actually does have a few combos that can put it into a competitive deck level. And I don't really like having or keeping super competitive decks around, but Viral's is about the closest that I get, generally speaking, and it's kind of stayed at a more higher level. It's going to go up against my Legendary Reanimator deck, which has what is it? Rena? Not Rena. That's Regna is the angel partner. So it has two partners. Timna, the Weaver, is one of them, and then there's another one that's Ramos. Ramos, the Soul Tender. So Ramos and Timna are heading the Legendary Reanimator deck, which is a deck that I played before on stream. That's pretty much it's almost all legendary creatures and trying to revive them from the graveyard. So I put that at the end because it has a lot of really powerful cards in it. Just kind of generally speaking, like they're generally just really good. So I didn't want to necessarily have them sort of dominate an earlier game. Unfortunately, I was kind of hoping that Anax and Cymede would make it in. And like I said, I purposefully did not keep Feather. But I would be happy to see what people think about having a deck with actual Rakdos guild leaders in it for every single color pair. Because I have a number of them. Technically Feather I have for Boros. I have Trostani, which is an original one. I have Lazap, which is an original one. Virals is an original one. Rakdos Lord of Rights is an original one. So that's, Trostani, Rakdos, Lazav, Virals, and Feather, which means I'm missing 5 color pairs. No, I guess I do actually have Rurik Thar, so he's an original one. I'm still kind of working on him. I don't really like him yet. He's not where I want him to be. So I'm missing 4, which is going to be Simic. Is it... I'm trying to think of from last week, maybe? Let's see. Oh, no, Orzhov is one of them. And then... Oh, sorry, Azorius. That's the other one. So, red-blue, white-blue, white-black, and I said the other one, but now I'm spacing. I don't know. So I'm missing kind of 4 commanders. I wouldn't mind hearing... Oh, Simic. That's what it's blue-green. So I'm kind of missing 4 color pairs to have an original guild leader on. So maybe that's something that I'll look into, and maybe the next time we do these guild wars, we'll try to do actually all actual guild leaders. And I'll try to build I'll maybe try to build the actual decks, like do deck building sessions on Sundays for each of those 4. I have been trying to look into another Azorius build, but the first thing that came to mind to looking at Azorius commanders was that owl that, like, whenever you cast a spell not from your hand, you draw a card. That seemed like a really... like a difficult one to build around, which means that it's appealing to try to dig around it or build around. So that's why I was like, let me pull some cards from that, because like Flashback and Madness and things that you just play from exile, like Rebound. So there is a decent number of cards that actually do fit into that category for Azorius, but that's why I decided it, because like the problem with Azorius that I have is that I don't generally like to play sort of straight full control decks. You know, I don't like the game to be bogged down where everybody doesn't play any cards because I have like 17 counter spells, and anytime you play something I counter it or it gets wrathed or something like that. I don't like necessarily playing that. And Azorius is like half that control type of control, and the other half is stacks cards. That's like what all of the Azorius original Azorius commanders do. They all are stacks cards. It's like, I don't really want to play that game. With Simic, the problem is that a bunch of the Simic commanders end up acting very, very similarly, and I did, again, sort of like pick out cards to possibly do another Simic deck, but it ended up being the legendary creature that is from Kaldheim, that is like, it's a shapeshifter card, so it comes into play as a copy of anything. So I was kind of thinking, oh, maybe a copy creature deck again, trying to do that, which, I mean, is like semi-interesting to me, but at the same time, I've seen it not work, and I need to figure out how to make it work. So I don't know. I'd be happy to take opinions on that. Then Azorius, I don't have anything for that at all. Legendary Reanimator is the best Azorius deck I ever built. Too many of them just do nothing. Not that they do nothing. It's just that a lot of them end up being Teysa decks that kind of ping everybody for damage over and over and over again. And I just don't find that very fun. I find that to be tedious. Like, it works, or at least it can work in principle, but it feels tedious. And it's like, oh, okay, so, like, when you tell an opponent, okay, I hit them for 16 damage with one big creature, it's like, wow, that's really cool. That's exciting. But when you're like, okay, I'm going to trigger this thing 16 times and ding you 16 times, it's like, okay, yeah, well, it's nice, but it's not very exciting when it's one damage a bunch of times. So I guess I just have too much Timmy or something in my heart of hearts. Okay, so then the last one was Orzhov Simic that... I'm just gonna keep forgetting the color pairs. Anyway, I've said them before like twice now, so I think that's all for tonight. That's all that I really have. So thank you all for watching, the people that showed up. I appreciate it. I love playing Magic, and I love sharing it with other people. So just let me know how you felt about it, and I guess I'll see you on Sunday if you're going to join me. Bye.